Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her hand against the reinforced glass of Lunar Station Alpha's observation deck, watching as construction drones wove the final layers of radiation shielding into place around the HMS Behemoth. The massive vessel stretched over 3 kilometers from bow to stern, its silver-white hull gleaming under the harsh lunar sunlight. 20 years of planning, building, and refining had led to this moment. "Status update on Section 47B," she asked, her voice carrying across the quiet command center. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a detailed cross-section of the ship's agricultural ring. "Hydroponic systems are at 98% efficiency," responded Lieutenant James Martinez from his monitoring station. "The first crop of enhanced wheat has already taken root. We're ahead of schedule on food production capabilities." Sarah nodded, allowing herself a small smile. The behemoth represented humanity's greatest achievement, a self-contained world designed to carry 50,000 colonists across the vast distance to Proxima Centauri. While other nations had focused on developing faster propulsion systems or experimenting with theoretical physics, the International Space Coalition had chosen a different path. If they couldn't find a shortcut through space, they would build a vessel capable of sustaining generations of humans during the journey. The ship's massive fusion reactors powered not just the engines, but entire ecosystems. Parks, schools, entertainment districts, and research facilities filled its multiple levels. The agricultural rings could produce enough food to feed the entire population indefinitely, while sophisticated water reclamation systems ensured not a single drop would be wasted. "Dr. Chen," called out Dr. Emily Wong from the sensor station, her voice carrying an unusual edge. "I'm picking up some anomalous readings from the outer system. They don't match any known natural phenomena." Sarah moved to examine the sensor data. The energy signatures appeared as irregular spikes on the quantum detection array, technology that had been developed specifically for the behemoth's long-range scanning systems. "How long have these been appearing?" she asked, noting the peculiar pattern to the fluctuations. "First detected them about 6 hours ago, but they've been growing stronger. Whatever it is, it's moving through the solar system at a significant fraction of light speed." The command center fell silent as implications of this discovery began to sink in. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Equipment malfunction, natural phenomenon, or perhaps "Alert mission control," she ordered, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "and begin running full diagnostics on the behemoth's defensive systems." The massive ship had been designed with multiple redundant shield generators and point defense networks. While these were intended to protect against meteoroids and radiation during the long journey to Proxima Centauri, they could serve other purposes if necessary. As alerts went out across the lunar surface, Sarah returned to the observation window. The behemoth's hull now bore the finishing touches of its radiation shielding, the material designed to protect its precious cargo from the harsh realities of deep space. The vessel represented everything humanity had learned about surviving in the void, not through elegant theoretical solutions, but through determination and robust engineering. "Energy signatures are continuing to approach," Emily reported. "Based on current trajectories, they'll reach the solar system within 48 hours. Sarah watched as teams of construction drones completed their final tasks around the behemoth's hull. Whatever was approaching, humanity would face it with their greatest achievement nearly complete, a vessel that carried not just people, but the very essence of human civilization within its walls. "Prepare for possible first contact scenarios," she commanded, "and let's show our potential visitors exactly what humanity can build when we put our minds to it." The behemoth floated serenely against the star-filled backdrop, its massive form a testament to human ingenuity and determination. As the unknown energy signatures drew closer, the ship stood ready, not just as a colony vessel, but as humanity's first ambassador to whatever awaited them in the depths of space. The alien ships emerged from the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit like a school of crystalline fish, their hulls refracting sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. Each vessel measured barely half a kilometer in length, elegant and sleek compared to the behemoth's vast bulk. The command center of Lunar Station Alpha hummed with tense activity as the fleet approached. 17 distinct vessels, Lieutenant Martinez reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Their energy signatures match what we detected earlier, but they're running cold now. Minimal emissions. Dr. Sarah Chen studied the tactical display, noting how the alien ships moved with perfect coordination. Their formation suggests a highly advanced propulsion system. The level of control they're displaying at those speeds. Her observation was interrupted by a chime from the communications array. Dr. Emily Wong's eyes widened as she processed the incoming data. We're receiving a transmission. It's perfectly formatted for our systems. The main screen flickered to life, displaying text in immaculate English. Greetings, builders of the great vessel. The Coordinated Systems Alliance seeks peaceful contact. Sarah exchanged glances with her team before authorizing a response. Within minutes, the first official communication between humanity and an alien civilization began. The CSI representatives expressed what could only be described as bewilderment at finding humans operating such an enormous vessel. Your species has not yet achieved faster than light travel, the alien message stated. Yet you construct ships that rival our largest space stations in size. This is unexpected. The alien fleet took up position near lunar orbit, their crystalline hulls catching Earth's reflected light. A delegation prepared to dock with Lunar Station Alpha, and Sarah found herself designated as humanity's primary representative due to her role as the behemoth's chief architect. The station's diplomatic reception area had been hastily converted for this historic meeting. Sarah stood with a small team of experts as the airlock cycled. The inner door opened to reveal 3 beings that challenged human perception. The aliens stood slightly taller than humans, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with each movement. Ambassador Zixtal, their lead representative, stepped forward with remarkable grace. Their translator device converted complex harmonics into clear English. We observed your vessel from afar and assumed we had discovered an advanced civilization. Zixtal said, their scales rippling with blue and green hues. Finding instead a young species capable of such construction is fascinating. Sarah led them to the observation deck, where the behemoth dominated the view. We built it to sustain life during the long journey to Proxima Centauri, she explained. Without faster-than-light travel, we needed to ensure our colonists could live comfortably for generations. The alien scales flickered with patterns that their translator didn't attempt to interpret. Most species focus on developing faster propulsion before attempting large-scale space habitation, Zixtal noted. Your approach is unique in our experience. They spent hours discussing the behemoth's systems, its massive hydroponic sections, fusion reactors, and the artificial gravity generators that made long-term habitation possible. The aliens seemed particularly intrigued by the entertainment districts and park systems. You bring your entire civilization with you, Zixtal observed, their scales now showing patterns of deep purple. We focused on making our ships smaller, more efficient. The energy required to maintain such extensive life support systems is significant, Sarah acknowledged. But we believed it was necessary for the mental and physical health of our colonists. A ship isn't just a vessel, it's a home. As the initial meeting drew to a close, Sarah noticed something in the aliens' behavior, a tension that belied their diplomatic composure. They had spent an unusual amount of time inquiring about the behemoth's defensive capabilities and self-repair systems. Standing again at the observation window, Sarah watched the crystalline alien ships glittering against the backdrop of space. Humanity had built the behemoth to ensure their survival on a long journey through the stars. She couldn't shake the feeling that its true purpose might be something entirely different. The Lunar Conference Center buzzed with activity as human and alien engineering teams shared their technological insights. Holographic displays filled the main hall, showing cross-sections of both the behemoth and CSA vessels. Dr. Sarah Chen watched as Ambassador Zixtal's scales shifted to deep gold, A color she had learned indicated intense concentration. "Your atmospheric recycling systems are remarkably robust," Zixtal observed, manipulating the hologram of the behemoth's life support hub. 3 separate backup systems, each capable of supporting the entire population independently. "We would consider this excessive." Sarah smiled, having heard similar comments from Earth-based critics. Redundancy is crucial for long-term survival. If one system fails during the journey to Proxima Centauri, the others ensure our people's safety. The ambassador's scales flickered with patterns that the translator interpreted as thoughtful amusement. "Your species plans for failure in ways we never considered. Our ships rely on perfect function, not multiple backups." Their discussion was interrupted by Dr. Emily Wong, who arrived with data from the latest cultural exchange session. The CSI representatives were particularly interested in our hydroponic sections, she reported. They couldn't believe we're growing actual trees in space. The behemoth's agricultural rings had become a major point of fascination for their alien visitors. While CSA ships used highly efficient nutrient synthesis for their crews, humans had chosen to recreate entire ecosystems. The massive vessel carried soil samples from Earth's most fertile regions, carefully maintained under artificial light and gravity. "Would you like to see the prototype garden section?" Sarah offered. "We've just completed the atmospheric calibration." Zixtal's scales rippled with eager blues and greens. The ambassador followed Sarah through the connecting tunnel to the behemoth's nearly completed hull. The garden section occupied a massive ring near the vessel's center, where the artificial gravity would be most stable. As they entered, Sarah watched Zixtal's reaction carefully. The ambassador's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors at the sight of earth trees growing in neat rows, their leaves rustling under recycled air currents. "You bring your world with you," Zixtal whispered, reaching out to touch a leaf with a scaled hand. "We abandoned such connections generations ago, seeking efficiency above all else." "The trees serve multiple purposes," Sarah explained, walking between the rows. "They help maintain oxygen levels, provide food, and offer psychological comfort to the colonists. Humans need more than just survival. We need to thrive." A subtle vibration ran through the deck plating, and Sarah noticed Zixtal's scales briefly flashing alarm patterns. The ambassador quickly composed themselves, but the moment of tension lingered. "Your approach to space travel is unique among all species we've encountered," Zixtal said, their voice carrying an undertone the translator couldn't quite capture. "Most focus on speed, on reaching their destination as quickly as possible. You instead build vessels that could sustain civilization indefinitely." Sarah led them to a viewport overlooking the agricultural ring's full extent. "The behemoth isn't just a ship. It's a declaration that humanity will survive and prosper among the stars, no matter how long the journey takes." Zixtal's scales shifted to deep purple, a color Sarah hadn't seen before. "And if the journey becomes dangerous? If survival requires more than just endurance?" The question carried weight beyond its simple words. Sarah thought of the intense interest the CSI had shown in their defensive systems, their frequent questions about the behemoth's ability to withstand damage. "Then we adapt," she answered firmly. "Every system on this ship was built with survival in mind. Whatever challenges space presents, we're ready to face them." The ambassador's scales rippled with complex patterns as they stared out at the rows of earth trees growing in the void of space. In their reflection on the viewport, Sarah caught a glimpse of what looked like fear, an emotion that transcended species barriers. Deep within the behemoth's engineering section, Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the logs of CSA inspection visits. The patterns had become impossible to ignore. Every tour, every question, somehow circled back to the ship's defensive capabilities. She pulled up another holographic display, tracking the focus of their inquiries. Fusion reactor redundancy, hull regeneration systems, shield harmonics, she muttered, marking each recurring topic. The aliens seemed particularly fixated on the behemoth's ability to sustain damage and continue functioning. Lieutenant Martinez's voice came through her comm unit. "Dr. Chen, We've detected unusual transmissions from the CSA fleet. They're using some kind of quantum encryption, but there's something odd about the timing. Send the data to intelligence, she replied, adding another note to her growing list of concerns. The CSA representatives had been nothing but courteous, yet an undercurrent of urgency colored every interaction. In the intelligence wing of Lunar Station Alpha, analyst Marcus Wong pored over the encrypted transmissions. His team had managed to identify patterns in the quantum noise, suggesting regular status reports being sent to distant coordinates. Plot these coordinates, he instructed his system. A three-dimensional star map materialized, showing a series of points stretching away from Earth. Each point represented a transmission destination, forming a line that traced back through CSA territory. The pattern stopped abruptly at a cluster of systems near the edge of known CSA space. Wong leaned closer, noting the complete absence of communications beyond that point. For a species as connected as the CSA, such silence was troubling. His console chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Chen. Any progress on those transmission patterns? Something's wrong in CSA space, he replied, sending her the star map. They're maintaining regular contact with their core worlds, but there's a dead zone where there should be active colonies. It's like something's blocking communications, or the colonies aren't there anymore. Sarah studied the map in her engineering office, her concern growing. The CSA's interest in defensive systems, their careful questions about self-repair capabilities, it all pointed to a species preparing for conflict. A soft chime announced Ambassador Zixtel's arrival. The alien diplomat's scales showed muted colors, lacking their usual vibrant patterns. Dr. Chen, we need to discuss modifications to your shield generators. Modifications? Sarah asked, carefully observing the ambassador's behavior. The current systems exceed our mission parameters. Zixtel's scales rippled with dark purple, the color she now recognized as deep concern. Your journey may prove more challenging than anticipated. We believe your defensive capabilities could be enhanced using our technology. Before Sarah could respond, her comm unit activated. Dr. Chen, Wong's voice carried barely contained urgency. We've decoded some of the transmissions. There's something out there consuming CSA colonies. The ambassador's scales went completely still, a reaction Sarah had never seen before. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken revelations. How long have you been running? Sarah asked quietly. Zixtel moved to the viewport, their reflection showing scales now shifted to colors of defeat and exhaustion. We thought our technology could protect us. Our efficient ships, our advanced weapons. None of it mattered. But your behemoth, it's different. It's built to endure. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. The massive ship, designed for a slow journey to Proxima Centauri, might serve a greater purpose. Its redundant systems, thick hull, and extensive repair capabilities weren't just over-engineering. They were exactly what you'd need to survive against an implacable enemy. Show me what's coming, she said, her voice firm with determination. If humanity needs to prepare for a fight, we need to know everything. The ambassador turned, their scales showing a complex pattern that the translator couldn't interpret. Outside the viewport, Earth hung silently in the void, unknowingly facing its first interstellar crisis. The holographic display in the Lunar Conference Center's secure chamber cast an eerie blue glow over the assembled faces. Ambassador Zixtel's scales shifted through shades of midnight as they activated the recording. This was taken from our outpost in the Denibola system, the ambassador said, their translator struggling to convey the emotion in their harmonics. 3 standard months ago. The recording showed elegant CSA ships in orbit around a distant world. Suddenly, strange objects appeared at the edge of the sensor range. Twisted masses of metal that moved with unsettling purpose. Dr. Sarah Chen leaned forward, watching as these entities swarmed the CSA vessels. We call them the Nexus, Zixtel explained. They were created as an automated mining and manufacturing system by a species long extinct. Now they consume everything in their path to create more of themselves. Marcus Wong studied the tactical data scrolling alongside the recording. Their ships are smaller than yours, but the numbers. He paused, calculating. They're reproducing exponentially. Precisely. The ambassador's scales rippled with dark patterns. Our ships, designed for efficiency and minimal resource usage, become perfect raw materials for their expansion. Each vessel they consume adds to their swarm. Sarah watched as the recording showed CSA ships attempting to flee. Their advanced weapons seemed to barely scratch the Nexus units. Your technology level is clearly higher than ours, she noted. Why can't you stop them? Zixtal manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular engagement. The Nexus adapts. Each encounter teaches them how to counter our weapons more effectively. But your behemoth, their scales shifted to a hopeful blue. It represents an approach they've never encountered. Lieutenant Martinez pulled up the behemoth's schematics alongside the recording. Our ship wasn't built for combat, he cautioned. No, Sarah agreed, but it was built to survive. She highlighted various sections of the massive vessel. Multiple redundant systems, thick armor plating, self-repair capabilities. We designed it to withstand centuries of deep space hazards. The ambassador's scales flickered with rapid patterns. Your species plans for failure in ways we never considered. The Nexus excels at finding and exploiting single points of failure, but your ship has none. Every critical system has backups, and those backups have backups. Marcus brought up his analysis of the CSA transmissions. The swarm is moving in this direction, isn't it? That's why you're here. Not just for diplomatic contact, but because you need our help. Yes. Zixtal's admission came with a ripple of shame-colored scales. Our refined technology proved vulnerable. Perhaps your more robust approach will succeed where we failed. Sarah stood, walking to the viewport where the behemoth's massive form blocked out the stars. How long do we have? At their current pace, they will reach your solar system within 6 months. The ambassador's scales showed complex patterns of fear and hope. We can offer our technology, our knowledge of their tactics. But your ship, your philosophy of over-engineering and redundancy, might be the key to survival. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The behemoth, designed to carry humanity's dreams to another star, might instead become their shield against a cosmic nightmare. We'll need to modify the design, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the silence. Convert some of the colony spaces to manufacturing areas. Strengthen the defensive systems. She turned to face the others. The behemoth was meant to preserve human civilization on a journey through space. Now it will preserve all our civilizations here. Through the viewport, Earth's blue sphere hung peacefully in the void, its population unaware of the approaching storm. But in that secure chamber, humans and aliens began planning their defense, each bringing their own strengths to the challenge ahead. The behemoth's engineering bay hummed with activity as human and alien technicians worked side by side. Dr. Sarah Chen watched as CSA energy conduits were integrated into the ship's power grid, their crystalline structures pulsing with contained power. The interface is holding stable, Lieutenant Martinez reported, monitoring the fusion reactor's output. Their power transmission technology is increasing our efficiency by 30%. Sarah nodded, making notes on her tablet. Above them, construction drones swarmed across the behemoth's hull, adding layers of CSA-designed armor between the existing plates. The massive ship was evolving, becoming something neither species had envisioned. Your structural reinforcement patterns are fascinating, Ambassador Zixtal observed, their scales showing bright patterns of scientific curiosity. The overlapping sections create a distributed load that makes the hull significantly harder to breach. Simple geometry, Sarah explained, pulling up a cross-section hologram. We based it on the way medieval armor was layered. Sometimes old solutions work best for new problems. In the tactical center, Marcus Wong coordinated with CSA strategic advisors, running simulation after simulation of Nexus attack patterns. The alien swarm's behavior appeared chaotic at first glance, but underlying patterns emerged through careful analysis. They target vital systems with surgical precision, he noted, highlighting attack vectors from previous encounters. But the behemoth doesn't have traditional weak points. Every critical component has redundant backups in different sections. The main viewing screen showed dozens of simulated battles, each testing different defensive configurations. The behemoth's massive size, once considered inefficient, proved to be a crucial advantage. Its extensive internal space allowed for multiple shield generators, weapon systems, and repair facilities, converting the secondary hydroponics ring into a drone manufacturing center, Sarah announced, updating the ship's schematics. We can produce repair units faster than the Nexus can damage the hull. Ambassador Zixtal's scales flickered with approval. Your species' inclination to build backup systems for the backup systems is proving invaluable. Our ships relied too heavily on perfect function of single advanced components. The modifications continued around the clock. CSA energy weapons were mounted alongside traditional point defense systems. The ship's computer cores were hardened against electronic warfare, with isolated backup systems ready to take over at a moment's notice. Sarah stood in the newly configured command center, surrounded by displays showing the behemoth's transformation. Begin the live fire test, she ordered. Outside, CSA ships launched volleys of energy weapons against a reinforced section of the hull. The layered armor absorbed and distributed the impact, while automated repair systems immediately began addressing the minimal damage. Hull integrity at 98%, Martins reported. Repair drones are already compensating for the damage. At this rate, we could sustain similar hits for weeks without significant degradation. Marcus brought up the latest tactical projections. The Nexus adapts quickly to new threats, but they've never encountered a ship designed to outlast them. They're used to quick victories through precision strikes. And we're building something that can't be taken down quickly, Sarah concluded. How long until the modifications are complete? Primary systems will be ready within 48 hours, Martins answered. Secondary and tertiary backups shortly after. Ambassador Zixtal moved to the main viewport, their scales showing a complex mixture of hope and concern. We brought destruction to your doorstep, yet you respond with innovation rather than fear. Sarah joined them at the window, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Humanity has always faced challenges by building, adapting, and enduring. The Nexus isn't just a threat, it's a problem to be solved. The behemoth's silhouette had changed, its clean lines now augmented with additional armor and weapon systems. Yet its core remained the same, a vessel built to carry life through the harshest environments imaginable. Now it would prove that humanity's approach to survival could protect not just their own civilization, but others as well. The first signs of the Nexus arrived as distortions in the quantum detection grid. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the behemoth's command center, watching as hundreds of twisted shapes emerged from the void beyond Saturn's orbit. Their metallic forms reflected the distant sunlight in unsettling patterns. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Martinez reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Counting over 300 individual units in the first wave, more appearing every minute. Ambassador Zixtal's scales had gone almost colorless, a sign of intense focus. Their numbers have grown since our last encounter. They've consumed more of our outer colonies than we feared. The massive view screens showed the approaching swarm in terrible detail. Each Nexus unit moved with unnatural precision. Their forms a nightmare fusion of stolen technologies and corrupted designs. All systems at full power, Sarah announced, checking the status displays. Begin launch sequence for defensive drones. The behemoth's modified hangars opened, releasing clouds of automated defenders. These drones, built using combined human and CSA technology, moved to form a protective screen around the massive ship. CSA fleet is in position, Marcus Wong reported from the tactical station. Their ships are forming up behind us, using the behemoth as a shield against the first wave. The enemy crossed the defensive line with frightening speed. The void lit up with energy weapons as CSI ships opened fire, their advanced targeting systems tracking multiple threats simultaneously. Several Nexus units dissolved under the barrage, but others adapted quickly, their surfaces shifting to absorb and deflect the attacks. "They're learning already," Zixtal observed, their scales showing patterns of concern, "beginning to compensate for our weapon frequencies." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then let's show them something new. Initiate defense pattern Delta." The behemoth's response was devastating in its complexity. Layers of defensive systems activated in sequence. Traditional projectile weapons followed by energy beams, electromagnetic pulses, and experimental weapons developed through human CSA cooperation. Multiple impacts on sectors 7 through 12. Martinez called out. Hull integrity holding at 94%. Repair drones responding. Through the viewports, Sarah watched swarms of repair units emerge from the behemoth's armored shell, quickly patching damage even as more Nexus units pressed their attack. The massive ship's redundant systems proved their worth as multiple hits failed to disable any critical functions. "They're targeting our main reactor," Marcus warned, highlighting a concentration of enemy units. Standard attack pattern for their swarm. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Let them try. Activate secondary and tertiary power systems." The behemoth's innovative power grid, with its multiple redundant reactors, defied the Nexus' attempts at surgical strikes. When they disabled one system, two more took its place, allowing the ship to maintain full combat effectiveness. "New contacts." Martinez's voice carried urgency. Second wave approaching from the outer system. The tactical display showed hundreds more Nexus units joining the battle. Several CSA ships took heavy damage, retreating behind the behemoth's bulk for protection. The massive vessel's layered armor absorbed punishment that would have destroyed smaller ships instantly. "Initiate the pulse sequence," Sarah ordered, remembering countless simulation runs. The behemoth's modified fusion reactors channeled power into a weapon of last resort, one that targeted the very nature of the Nexus swarm. Energy built up in specialized arrays along the ship's hull, creating a rippling field of quantum disruption. When it released, the pulse swept through space like a silent storm. Nexus units caught in its path began to lose cohesion, their adaptive capabilities overwhelmed by the completely alien energy signature. "Pulse effective against 60% of targeted units," Marcus reported. "The remaining swarm is retreating. No, regrouping. They've never encountered a defense they couldn't overcome quickly." Sarah watched as the surviving Nexus units pulled back, their movements suggesting confusion. The behemoth had proven itself more than just a large target. It was a fortress that refused to fall, a challenge to their entire strategy of rapid adaptation and overwhelming force. "Prepare for their counterattack," she commanded, knowing this was only the first round of a longer battle. But now they know. Humanity doesn't just build ships. We build survivors. 1 month after the battle, the behemoth's observation deck offered a stunning view of Earth's recovery efforts. Construction drones swarmed around damaged orbital installations, their work illuminated by the rising sun. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the viewport, watching as a CSA ship demonstrated their new hybrid design. Smaller than the behemoth, but incorporating many of its survival-focused innovations. "The latest test results are promising," Ambassador Zixtal announced, their scales shimmering with optimistic blues and greens. "By adapting your layered armor concept to our energy shield technology, we've increased survivability by 300%. Sarah nodded, studying the holographic data floating between them. The Nexus swarm's retreat had marked not just a military victory, but the beginning of a technological revolution. Both species had learned valuable lessons from each other. "The Interstellar Engineering Institute is ready to begin full operations," she said, bringing up the schematics for the new facility being constructed in lunar orbit. "Teams from both our civilizations working together to develop the next generation of ships." Lieutenant Martinez entered the observation deck, his tablet displaying updates from the long-range sensor network. "The quantum detection grid is operating at full capacity," We'll have advance warning if the Nexus attempts another incursion. The defense network represented another fusion of approaches. CSA's advanced sensor technology combined with humanity's emphasis on redundancy and coverage. No single point of failure could blind them to approaching threats. Your species continues to surprise us, Zixtal observed, their scales shifting to thoughtful purple hues. When we first discovered your enormous ship, we thought it represented technological backwardness. Now we understand it showed wisdom we have forgotten. Marcus Wong joined them, bringing reports from the Tactical Analysis Division. The Nexus swarm's behavior has changed fundamentally. They've begun avoiding areas protected by our new defensive systems. For the first time in their history, they're learning caution. Sarah moved to the main display, activating a view of the shipyards where the next generation of vessels was taking shape. We're not just building better ships, she noted. We're creating a new philosophy of space travel, one that balances efficiency with survivability. The hybrid vessels under construction showcased this new approach. They carried CSA's advanced technology, but protected it with human-designed redundant systems. Their hulls featured both energy shields and physical armor, while internal spaces included gardens and recreational areas alongside critical systems. The behemoth was meant to carry our civilization to the stars. Sarah continued, watching the construction efforts. Instead, it taught us all how to survive among them. Ambassador Zixel's scales rippled with agreement. Perhaps this is why spacefaring species need each other. Alone, we risk becoming too focused on our own approaches. Together, we find new solutions. The observation deck's displays showed similar cooperation happening across the solar system. CSI ships worked alongside human vessels to strengthen defenses and rebuild damaged infrastructure. The predicted colonial mission to Proxima Centauri had transformed into something far more significant, a joint venture to secure their shared space. We've approved the expansion of the Behemoth class, Martins reported. 3 new vessels, incorporating everything we've learned. They'll serve as mobile fortresses, protecting trade routes and colonies. Sarah smiled, remembering the criticism the original Behemoth design had faced. Its size, its redundant systems, its focus on long-term survival, all had been called wasteful. Now these same features had become the foundation of a new era in space exploration. Sometimes the best way forward isn't the most elegant solution, she said, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Sometimes it's about building something strong enough to endure whatever the universe throws at it. The Behemoth's massive form cast a shadow across the lunar surface, no longer just a ship but a symbol of cooperation between species. In trying to preserve human civilization, they had helped create something greater, a future where different approaches combine to overcome impossible challenges.